Blogging is something that every business should be doing. In today's presentation, we're going to talk about what to say and how to say it, and how any business can start leveraging blogging. My name is Lorraine Ball, and I'm a marketing strategist, and I'm going to be your host for today's presentation. I run a digital agency called Roundpeg, and we've been blogging for ourselves and our clients for a decade now. Why do we do it? Because blogging works. Why should you blog? Well, I'm going to give you one very important reason. Search. Blogging will help customers find you. When I look for your product or service on Google, will I find you? This is an example of a search for an insurance company. And as you can see, there are some companies that rise to the top and some that don't. Blogging helps you rise to the top. And it does that because of 3 R's. And these are 3 things that search engines look for: recent content, relevant information, and related links. Let's look at how blogging does this. When it comes to recency, search engines look at when was the last time your site was updated and how often you update it. And why does this matter? Because search engines are always looking for the newest and the best information for their customers, for people that are using the search service. Well, you can't update your website every day or every week. It's not practical. But when you are blogging, when you are adding that new information in a new blog post, you're continually feeding search engines' desire for new information. Relevant. Does your website contain the words I'm looking for? One of the things that you see when you start looking for keywords is people use lots of different phrases to find the same information. Cheap auto insurance, cheapest auto insurance quotes, auto insurance rates. It is impossible to stuff all of those words into your web copy. But by looking at each of these different phrases and using each of these different phrases in a title or in titles of several blog posts, now you increase the chances that when someone types in an obscure phrase, Google is going to find your blog post and point that prospective customer at your website. Google is looking for content that matches the search string exactly. That's why having one blog post that's titled Best Insurance Quotes and another blog post entitled How to Find Cheap Insurance Quotes or Cheap Insurance Rates gives you multiple opportunities. And Google looks to see if the search string appears more than once on a website. Again, you can only repeat a phrase so many times on a single page before it becomes absolutely unreadable. But you can, over a period of time, use that same word or phrase in different blog posts. Google also looks at your page titles. And I say Google, but I'm referring to all search engines. But let's face it, Google's kind of the elephant in the room. And search engines will look for page titles. Is there a page on your website that is entitled Best Insurance Rates? Search engines look at blog posts and consider them the same as a page of information. And so having multiple blog posts allows you to create unique titles, meta tags, and keywords included in each different blog post. And so you can have all these different pages with all these different titles, and you can increase the relevancy of your website overall. So blogs are both recent and relevant, and they're easy to update. It gives you an opportunity to vary your content and titles on every page, And the additional bonus is that blogs give you a steady stream of new content to share on social media and in email, bringing more people to your website. And when it comes to related links, on the internet, you are judged by the company that you keep. Now, links are not as important as they used to be, but there is still value in having good links on the page, which connect your blog and your website to other influential and trustworthy sites. And so whether you're writing a blog and you mention someone else, or you share a blog on social media and someone mentions you, it creates that high value connection that Google will look at it and go, oh, these people think this information is good. And we already know that that information is good. And so that positive energy essentially flows between those two pieces of information. And when you're thinking about links for your blog, you want to think about inbound. Can you post links in directories and on social media that drive traffic to your site? Can you include some high-quality outbound links that direct your readers to other sites that contain relevant information? And are you using a few internal links that maybe connect 2 or 3 articles that are on related topics that make it easy for readers to find more information and allow search engines to go, oh, they wrote about good insurance rates, cheap insurance rates, and best insurance rates. And all of those blog posts get connected by those internal links. Why blog? Beyond search, the answer is results. Because at the end of the day, if you're a small business, all of this marketing stuff is great, but it's only great if it eventually makes the cash register ring. Blogs are part of that process because at the core, marketing is about getting results, and blogs can help you create those results. What kind? It will vary depending on what your business is about. Maybe you want someone to click on a link, download a workbook, come in and visit your store, your appointment, make a reservation, maybe call. Essentially, what you're looking for when someone is reading your blog is for them to take the next step that eventually leads to revenue, or if you're a nonprofit, to donations. And blogs are an incredibly powerful tool on the journey from who are you to here's my money. Why? Because blogs answer questions. These two statistics were both from recent studies, and they absolutely blew me away. 50% of purchase decisions are made before a customer talks to a supplier. Think about that. More than half of your customers have already made up their mind whether or not they're going to do business with you based on something that they heard from someone, that they read online, or they read on your website. And by the year 2020, the expectation is that 85% of people will manage relationships with an enterprise without ever interacting with a human being. Now, on the one hand, that's really sad, but on the other hand, if you're doing a good job, if you're creating an interesting, well-indexed blog with lots of answers to lots of questions, that means that while you're sleeping or laying on a beach in Costa Rica, your prospective customers are getting the answers they need and feeling confident that they want to do business with you. And so as you're writing your content, keep in mind that you are writing for your audience and not for you. You're not writing to boast and pound your chest and make people think that you're just fabulous. You are writing because you want them to feel that you understand who they are and that you are the right choice for them. So think about building a persona. think about creating a typical customer. And I know that everyone will say, well, but so many different people buy from us. I get that. But there is a typical customer. There is an ideal person. Yes, lots of different people may buy from you, but who's most likely? Who's most likely to appreciate what you are selling? And who are you really talking to with your blogs? And it's okay to have more than one persona. This is an example. Monroe, they're a shoe company. Their persona is a woman. Brandy Tyler, she's got narrow feet. She's 36. She's got a nice job as a receptionist making $38,000 a year. And they've got a description of who she is, what she's looking for, what frustrates her. And I really like something else that they did on this persona where they sort of defined this customer by pulling in real quotes from real customers. Another way to do it, this is Robert Mason. And again, you've got a picture of a typical person. Here, what I like, along with his bio and pain points, you've got some idea of his favorite apps and the kind of technology products he's interested in. I can write and connect with him and use some of this information to include in content I'm writing directed at this kind of customer. And personas are not just for business to consumer. They also work in B2B, where you can profile that corporate buyer, that mid-level manager that you are targeting. How do they want to be reached? What jobs are they in? Where do they get their information? Each of these is a slightly different style, but each of them helps you as a writer to look at it and go, oh, that's who I'm talking to. It helps you create a relevant message, a position statement that defines who you are and what you bring to that customer. It allows you to think about the key benefits, what's really important to the customer that you actually do. What benefits do you bring? What are their pain points? What are their common questions? And how do they take action if they want to go to that next step? When it comes to blogging, once you figure out who you're talking to, there are actually a number of different approaches you can take. Creating, curating, and cultivating content. And I'm going to show you each one of those. When you're creating, you are actually writing original content. You have an idea, you have something that you want to talk about that you think will be of interest to your audience. When you're curating, you're collecting information written by others and distributing it through your blog. And cultivating is when you solicit user-generated content. So what do each of these approaches to blogging look like? Well, in each case, you want to do a few things. First off, keep it simple. Each of these three techniques can work if you follow simple outlines. At a minimum, you do have to have 500 to 600 words. Why? Because search engines now consider anything under 500 words to be thin content, and they will tend to skip it and not index it. And if you're writing to create content for search, you want to make sure it's indexed. There really is no maximum. You can write as long as you like. I tend to like to keep it in the 600 to 800 word range. I think after that you get reader fatigue, but if you're really doing something in-depth and you do 1,000 or 1,500 word blog post, it's going to have tremendous authority. Readers may get bored, but search engines will really like it. You want to keep the blog post focused around one keyword or theme. So if you find yourself going off on tangents in different areas, go ahead and pull those into separate blog posts. And there should be one logical next step or call to action at the end of the blog. If somebody gets to the end, now what? Do they go read somebody else's blog? I hope not. You want to have a call to action, an offer to sign up for your newsletter. Maybe it is a download or a video or a podcast they can listen to, something that takes them to the next step. You want to have one compelling featured image. You may or may not need it in the blog post, but you are going to need it when you share on social media. So as you're writing that blog and carefully crafting that headline, make sure you pay attention to the image as well. And every blog post should have one relevant link, internal or external, but at least one place, one other article that you're connecting to. And don't forget your unique title and meta description. Here's a sample blog layout. I find that when I'm preparing a blog, it's very helpful to use an outline. I don't always add the headings and subheads, but it does help if you do. If you have these breaks in your article, not only does that make it easier for someone who is reading your content to skim, it makes it easier for search engines to figure out what the most important information is. Again, you want to have a great picture. And these days, yes, there's lots of good stock photography out there, but also think about shooting some photos of your own, creating your own graphics, creating things that are distinct and unique to you. Organize your information. Keep your paragraphs fairly short. Even if the blog post is long, you see how most of these paragraphs are only about 3 lines? That's because if someone isn't reading this article on their desktop, but they're reading it on mobile, a long paragraph is just an overwhelming wall of text on a phone. So break your sentences, break your paragraphs up into smaller groups of sentences. And have a single call to action at the bottom that is relevant, related to the existing article. A clear next step. And the truth is that you don't have to be intimidated about blogging. Blogging software is really easy to use. This is WordPress, but you can use TypePad or Blogger, and most of them have got, when you log in, there's a little box where you can put your text, you can put your title. The formatting tools are very similar to what you've used to using with Microsoft Word. You can add pictures. You can undo a change that you made. And then you can publish it. And again, most blogging tools will allow you to schedule it. And I love the scheduling feature because I can go in on a weekend or a quiet afternoon and knock out a few blog posts and then schedule them to hit over the next few weeks when I know I'm going to be too busy. And that way I have a steady stream of content, but I don't have to stop what I'm doing to write at a time that's not convenient for me. Okay, I talked about the 3 options: creating, curating, and cultivating. If you're going to write your own blog posts, content ideas are everywhere. Listen to your constituents, your employees, your competitors. Keep a running list. We have a bulletin board in the office, and every time somebody is asked a question by a client or we run into a weird situation, we write it down on an index card and we tack it on the board. And every now and then, when I'm stuck for an idea, I'll go to the wall and I will find a blog post idea that I can just write. I frequently read industry journals and follow trends and things in the news to stay sort of one step ahead. What makes good content? Product information, company information, People that are interested in you are going to be interested in changes in your product. If you have a loyal following, and we've been writing our blogs for years, people really like when we share stories about what's going on in the company, new employees. I did a series of blog posts on our 10-year anniversary, going back and writing about some of the people who had an impact on the business. It was a really great series. I enjoyed writing it, and they were some of the most widely read and widely shared. Community news and events, industry trends, frequently asked questions, the list goes on and on. Really, anything that you might talk about to a prospective customer makes good blog content. Testimonials, case studies, educational how-tos, resources, links to holiday events if you're a nonprofit organization, maybe information on your latest fundraising campaign, new discounts that you're offering, surveys, seasonal information. Again, anything that you might talk about can make good content on your blog. Turn questions into content, and this is just a fun example. Here's 3 questions. How do I prevent my pipes from bursting? Can I deduct mileage from work to home? And how do I pick the right wine? These are questions that businesses get asked over and over again. When you turn it into a blog post, turn it into a blog post with an interesting title. 3 ways to protect your pipes. No, you can't deduct that. Red or white, become a wine expert in 3 steps. Some of the tricks that I'm using in these subject lines I'm going to talk a little bit more about later, but numbers are always very popular, and going negative makes people stop and look again. A great title is critical to your blog post. Think about these 4 areas when you're trying to come up with blog posts. Think about your business. Look internal. Look at what's going on inside your company with regard to products and people. Think about your industry. Look outside. Look at the things that are happening in your community at large. Share your expertise. My web team writes blog posts that frequently describe how to use new tools or new plugins, things that we've already tested and kicked the tires on. And again, those blog posts answer a ton of questions that customers and prospects have about our approach to web design. And for a lot of businesses, themes really work. We find that holiday themes, event themes, picking something and encouraging several people to write on that same theme throughout the month really ties your content together. But you don't have to write all of it. You can choose curation. Now, I'm going to tell you that I think it's a mix and match. I don't think you should try to curate 100% of your blog. But you can curate content created by others to add a mixture to your blog. Where to find it? Look in industry news, read blogs, and subscribe to email lists. Follow industry leaders and maybe set up some Google alerts. When you are curating content, you can't just lift the entire blog. But if you find 2 or 3 articles that are related to a topic, you can build a blog post that has a mixture of opinions and ideas. When you do that, when you're pulling ideas from multiple sources, make sure that you credit the original author or source and make sure you link back. Those trackbacks do 2 things. Number 1, it's a good way to give people an opportunity to find more on that topic. but also it's a nice way to let that author know that you value their content. By following them, they're more likely to turn around and share the blog post, and they're more likely to perhaps follow your blog and comment on other things that you're writing. And finally, if you're going to use a curation strategy, make sure you add your own perspective. These blog posts can't just be a roundup of stuff that you've pulled from other places. You need to be able to tell me why you've pulled it together and why I should come back and look for other content from you instead of simply going to these other blogs next time. And finally, you can do what I call collect. And this is different than curating, because when you're collecting, you're actually asking people to provide and share information. You can collect information from your employees, if you're an organization, from members and volunteers, partners, customers, and peers. User-generated content is incredibly powerful. People like to share their opinions. They like to share their expertise. And so whether you're collecting a bunch of testimonials, reviews, comments on how people use your product and building them into a roundup post, it has a level of authenticity that is only available when the content is coming from others. And in this very cynical world in which we live, people tend to believe what other people say rather than what a company says. So when you curate content from all these different people and you're sharing all these different voices, it lends credibility to you. One of my favorite tricks is to create a group post. And here I am reaching out to people who are my peers. They are other marketing experts from around the country. And I ask them to share their expertise. And these kind of group posts very often go viral because there's a lot of external links, and then the writers are likely to link back with internal links, and it compounds your social reach. And they're easy because I can write an introduction and then share content from 3, 4, 5, 10 different people. Each one of those people is likely to share my blog post, and each one of those people is likely to comment on the blog post, make it more interactive, and increase the visibility of that blog post. And then if I finish off at the bottom of the page with a link that is unique to us, that is connected to what this blog is about, it gives me an opportunity to grow my email list and move prospective customers through the funnel. And this is an important part of blogging, writing attention-grabbing headlines. It's not enough to write content. Everybody writes content. You have to have a headline that makes people stop and notice when they see it in your newsletter, when they see it in social media, or even when they see it browsing through your blog. This is one of my favorite examples of a headline, and it actually comes from a newspaper in the 1960s. Headless body found in topless bar. It is so outrageous, and it actually was true, that it made people stop and read the newspaper. This actually was the headline from a very gruesome murder. And the writer was smart enough to know that if he just did murder at so-and-so bar, people would have passed it by. This was a time in New York when there were lots of murders. But positioning it this way, the rhythm of headless and topless, the outrageous nature of the visual, really caught people's attention. Now, he was a professional writer, but you can do this too. And there are lots of different ways to create great headlines. You can go with a very straightforward, informational, here's the facts, boom, boom, boom. And for an audience that's just looking at the facts, that's a great way to go. You can warn people, don't make these mistakes. How to ruin your carpet in 5 easy steps. Persuade. Why you need a blog? Well, I don't know that I need a blog, but since you put it that way, maybe I do. Go negative. There's a lot of research that shows that people are more likely to move away from pain than they are to move towards pleasure. So when they read a headline that says, "We'll help you grow," versus "Don't go bankrupt," the headline that says "Don't go bankrupt" will actually get opened or read more often. Have a hint of mystery. Let people wonder what you're really talking about, or pique their curiosity. Don't tell them everything they need to know in a headline. Ask questions. Are you happy with your business? Do you have enough sales? Now, you got to be careful, because if people answer the question no, they won't read your post. Create a sense of urgency. 5 things you need to do before the end of the year. 2 changes to the tax plan you need to know about now. Personalize. Everybody wants to feel like you're talking to them. So you can do one blog post on investing strategies for everyone, or you can do a blog post entitled "Why Baby Boomers Need to Rethink Their Investments," "Investing for New Parents," do another one on investment strategies for recent college grads, how to invest after you get a raise. A lot of the information might be the same, but the audiences that you will attract with each title will be different. And so tweak the content just enough that each audience feels like that article is written just for them. And take advantage of top appeal. There's a reason that magazines have for years published the best dressed list and the worst dressed list, and why there are the top 10 cities to visit and the 3 best wines. People want to be sure that they don't miss out. And so using that top appeal strategy in your headlines, using numbers, either very small or very large, will work to your advantage. People don't really expect you to solve all of their problems, but if it's just 2 or 3 ideas, they know they have time and they'll read it. And if the list is 100 ideas long, people can't resist thinking, well, there's got to be something there. So top appeal and numbers can all work to your advantage. Mix it up. Don't fall into a trap where every single headline works the same way. Are you this? Do you that? Mix that up and have a number thrown in or a warning. Don't let people think that everything you're doing is formulaic, because as they scroll through your blog roll, they're going to be like, oh, all those blogs look the same. Make them stand out and be different with different style headlines. And at the end of the day, you cannot just write your blog and sit back and wait for people to find you. You need to distribute the information. Your blog is ground zero. This is where you want people to come, and this is where you create the content that you will share everywhere else. You want to repurpose that content. Maybe you take a blog post. Maybe you take one picture from the blog post and you share it on Facebook. or share that photo on Instagram, or transform that blog into a complete newsletter. There is this virtuous cycle. Your blog and your newsletter, you share the information on social media, and then when you attract the attention of people on social media, they're likely to come back to your blog again and come back to your newsletter. These pieces all work together. You want to reach customers where they are, and one of the things that this means is really thinking about your customers. Do you have to be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and G+, to be sure that you reach everybody? Well, maybe not. I'm going to tell you a little story. This was written by a company called Copyblogger. They're one of the leading authorities on blogging. And if you're interested in doing a blog and actually generating revenue from your blog, these are the guys you want to read and follow. And about 2 years ago, they actually deleted their Facebook page. They had something like 30,000 fans, and they said, you know what? Not going to do it. Because we put content on Facebook and people don't really interact with us. Our community is on Twitter. So it's not our job to tell our audience where we live. It's our job to grow communities where they live. And every time I talk to customers about picking platforms, I come back to this same example. So as you're thinking about which of the platforms you need to be on, go back to your persona, go back to your target customer, and then spend more time posting information on LinkedIn and Facebook if that's where they are, and feel free to skip Instagram or Twitter if they're not there. I would argue that for almost every customer base, email is going to be a valuable component. And every now and then, step back. You can only do this after you've been blogging for a while. But create a roundup post. And what a roundup post does is it actually collects 3, 4, 5 different articles on the same topic and grabs a little snippet or summary, like the curated blog post, but this is actually curated from your own blog. It gives you an opportunity to drive new people back to posts that were very popular. It gives you an opportunity to breathe new life, perhaps into a post that was published on an off day. If there was a lot of other things going on in the world, someone may have missed that blog. And this is a great way to give it another opportunity to shine. It also gives you additional links. And lastly, you need to use data to improve your content. After you've been blogging for a while, don't just guess. Look for clues on your website. Look at your list of what pages are most popular. What topics do people return to over and over and over again? Sure, your homepage is going to be very popular, but look at your blog posts and figure out, can I write a follow-up to this? Can I write an extension? Should I go back and just add more information to this blog post? And don't just look on your website. Look at social media. Look at your history from something like Facebook and see which content generated more impressions, which content generated more engagement, more likes and clicks and shares. Use the information to make better decisions about what content you're going to write about next time. And then start creating. Start writing. Write often. I will tell you that there is nothing that is more beneficial when it comes to creating content than simply writing. The more you write, the better you become. And get a good editor. Find someone either on your team or outside of your team who will read your content and clean up all of the grammar and spelling. Because you don't want to drive traffic and then create an impression that you're sloppy in what you're doing. Questions about blogging? We would love to hear from you.